Hey, this is Pat Ricard, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's Lamarvelous.
Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Monday, or I should say Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. Getting a little bit of a belated episode out here for a Sunday recap. Nice blustery Monday here in the greater Baltimore area. And we were here breaking this thing down after a little bit of a scheduling conflict. Had to have us skip out on last night's sort of immediate reaction recording. But now we have some distance from the game on Sunday, so we're ready to break it down. Ravens, of course, dropping, let's just say it, a real heartbreaker to the Steelers at home. What did the final score wind up being? 28-24, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So they, have a goal line sequence. They can't get it done. Have another kind of bizarre sequence where they stop them or driving down, and some, questionable refereeing decisions that we're going to get into. Just a very, very frustrating game that it feels like Baltimore really should have won, and they kind of handed away. And that's kind of what's frustrating about it, but also somewhat encouraging if you like to spin it positive, which I think we're going to in some ways. But how you doing, bud? We don't have to get into all that yet. Let's a little check in here. How's it going on this fine Monday night?
I'm doing well. I had a busy day, busy, long day. Had a long Sunday. Had work 5 to 11. Ended up having some trouble there, being on late for SIS until a little before midnight. So that's why we weren't able to record last night. I apologize for that. But yeah, gave us some time to chill out, and had another long day today. But now I'm back and have my own little room for a studio and to get that together. So some good stuff coming along. It was let's get into the game. Like, I enjoyed that game. I liked that game. I thought it was fun to watch the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger trade blows with the Ravens, and it's a fourth quarter, and go-ahead touchdowns are being scored, and penalty flags are coming out, and sacks and hits and fumbles and all that stuff, and the Ravens end up on the losing side of it. But at the end of the day, like, now that we've had some time, if the Ravens drove down the field, which they did at the end of the game, and let's say Willie Snead catches that, or the ball gets put at the 1 and the Ravens punch it in, like, does that change anything? Does that change anything? It's the Ravens. It's the Steelers. It's a tight game. It could go either way. It's back and forth. Like, yeah, there's negative takeaways. Yeah, there's some good stuff, but it was just good to have that, like, feeling back. I missed it. I missed that 2008 to 2000 to 2014-ish Ravens Steelers, and the Ray Lewis years and the Ed Reed years and that kind of stuff. And it felt that way. Big hits, lots of sacks, lots of quarterback hits, all that good stuff. So that was exciting for me. I had fun in that game, and it sucked that they lost, but I'm excited for Thanksgiving. It's fun. It was fun. Ravens Steelers is back. And if you're a younger fan, or a fan that, hasn't been around for a while, or we've had so many people reach out to us that are from abroad in different countries and picked up football in the last couple of years and things like that. Like, this is good. This is exciting. Have fun watching that. This is fun football.
Muhammad Ali is one of my favorite athletes of all time. And he's a guy who, like a lot of athletes.
Here's a guy.
Let me tell you something about Muhammad Ali. When he gets in there into the ring and starts firing insults out there, dancing around and boasting, and you're sort of like, I don't know. He's not really in this 14 to 18 range that I tend to go towards here, but really is truly a special talent now. It's something else. But a guy who is one of the GOATs, and he hung on for too long and had many fights at the end that were just kind of very disappointing. And it's like, why are you doing this? This is not necessarily, we don't want to remember you this way. And I kind of look at this rivalry in that light or had looked at it in that light for several years, where it's like, why are we making this a thing? Neither team is especially relevant. It's really like we're kind of just clinging on for old time's sake and tradition's sake. This felt like, in every sense, a Ravens-Steelers game that you would have seen in like 2006, 2008, 2010, 2012, two really, really good, solid teams that are going to be in the mix for the long haul of the season. And like you mentioned, it was an awesome fucking game. It was really good. And the only thing I would have changed about it was the result. Obviously, I think I'm not even like totally, I don't have many gripes about the way that the Ravens went out there and went about their business. I think a couple different breaks, and we'll get into it, maybe some better quarterback play. They definitely do win that game, but that's just kind of the rub of the green as far as this rivalry goes. And it adds a whole lot more juice to the Steelers season, who are going to continue on at 8-0, and it adds a whole lot more juice to this Thanksgiving matchup, as you hinted at, in our preview, in which you pretty much predicted everything that happened, as we're also going to touch on. But yeah, man, exceptionally fun game. The only thing that I'm a little miffed at right now is just the reactionary stuff, and like the Greg Roman conversation is being had, and the Lamar Jackson big games conversation is being had. And that's all stupid stuff that, it shouldn't concern me as much as it does, but it does sort of get the blood boiling a little bit. And it's another thing we're going to get into, but yeah, just a hard fought kind of heavyweight, title fight type thing, which, maybe it would have been even more that way had this been in prime time. I don't particularly understand why it wasn't. I'm not one of those people that were freaking out about them not flexing it, because they don't really do that at this point. But yeah, just ultimately a really, really awesome game between two awesome teams. And, the series is not over, so we're going to see what happens. I'm disappointed with the result this time around, but yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up there with your opening salvo.
It was fun. It sucked. It was fun. It was ugly. It was pretty. It was all of it. It was black. It was blue. It was yellow. It was purple. I love the Ravens-Steelers rivalry. You can't tell the story. You can't write the story of the Baltimore Ravens without mentioning the Pittsburgh Steelers. Likewise, you can't tell the story of the Steelers in the last 25 years without very promptly and frequently mentioning the Baltimore Ravens. While they are a more storied and obviously older franchise, it has just become part of their DNA at this point, and that kind of confirmed it for me, because it really has dwindled the last couple of years in that rivalry. It's just good to see it back, and I get the reactionary stuff, and I get it. I get all of that, but before we dive in and get into the listener questions and our audience and all that stuff, I know that this might not be the same, and things aren't the same. You can call it a bias, a perspective bias, or personal bias, whatever the right term would be, but it just feels so much like what I've seen before. Like, I feel like it gives me goosebumps. I feel like I'm having deja vu of these tough games, these difficult situations, the adversity, disappointment in the playoffs, Steelers being tough, having the Chiefs kind of replace the Patriots, and knowing that, young quarterback, it reminds me so much of Joe Flacco. And Flacco kind of was a different story with the dominance of the defense and running the ball and making plays sometimes when he had to, and managing games and things, and then becoming this, big-armed, big dick swinging kind of deep ball thrower and becoming much more than he was early on. Lamar is kind of the opposite. You'd like to see a lot more around him on offense, but in the grand scheme of things, I just feel like I've seen this movie before. And overall, as a lifelong Ravens fan, there's something that's not right when everybody loves the Ravens. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right when the media loves the Ravens, when Lamar's on the Madden cover and they're the talk of NFL Network and ESPN and Twitter and everything, and there's all this talk. When they are doubted, they do better. When for some reason, when they're underdogs, they do better. When they sneak in as a wild card or a 4 seed or whatever, they back into the playoffs, they do better. And when the expectations are on them, I've seen that story before. I've seen the only time the Ravens had a home playoff bye, as my dogs are going insane in here, I've seen the Steve McNair Ravens go 13-3 and not be able to find the end zone and lose to the Colts. It's happened before. I've seen this movie. It is being written. Maybe there's a new director or whatever you want to call it, but it's the same story. And it makes me feel good about the direction of this team. It makes me feel confident that they've been able to get back to that point. And it might sound stupid because they haven't accomplished anything major, but they need that. They need that adversity. They need that toughness. And that's why it's so difficult with the reactionary takes that we get of, last year, they benched the starters in week 17 and they won too many games in a row. They needed some adversity. Here it is. Here is the adversity. Ronnie Stanley's down. That fucking sucks. Marlon Humphrey has COVID right now. Horrible. Sucks. Another tough game. They're down, but they're not out. They're 5-2. We're going to keep saying it. Maybe they end up 5-11. I don't know. Then I'll stop saying that. But they're 5-2. Tough game. The two teams they've lost to are the 1 and the 2 seed in the AFC right now. It's a lot of football left to be played. And I just want Thanksgiving so badly. But that's my spiel on the sentimental bull crap. And that's how I feel. And it weirdly feels good.
Yeah, it does kind of feel right. It goes pretty much all the way back to week 3 when they welcomed the Chiefs into Baltimore and, big primetime game. And they had a good first 2 weeks. And you go onto those screen caps on Twitter from ESPN and whatever else pregame shows where all the graphics are filled out and everyone's picking the Ravens and it's like, fuck. Like that's it. They're going to lose and promptly lose. This was one where I think people were maybe a little more split. I saw a lot of people picking the Steelers, but still some people in the Ravens corner. But just as far as what you're saying is about people that were about people kind of liking them generally, or kind of there not really being any doubt. Like there was no doubt last season about how good they were. And kind of, it was just sort of this perfect dreamlike state that you're just kind of floating through a season. Now there is kind of some adversity and there is, clowns like Michael David Smith talking about Lamar's stats. I'll fucking at him. And there is people, Brandon Marshall talking about Greg Roman. I like Brandon a lot, but I don't agree with this whole Greg Roman figured out thing. And it gets the blood boiling, man. It gets me, gets the kid a little horned up to mix it up on Twitter and kind of defend my team a little bit, because that's what sports is kind of supposed to be about. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like kind of, it's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be, kind of a jubilant thing a lot of the time. But, other times it's kind of supposed to, get the anger going a little bit. And unless you're like a Patriots fan who was born in like 1996, then like nobody's gonna have like a perfect football experience. And I mean, look at those people now. They're finally starting to experience what it's like to have a tough season. So you do have to have some adversity, and you have to have some adversity as a fan, and you got to have your skin thickened a little bit. So this is a skin thickener for sure. And, the way things stand, they got a tough stretch coming up here, going to play Indy. They've got Tennessee coming to town, I believe. So some tough games coming up. And I think their mettle is going to be tested, particularly with some of the losses they've had. I mean, it's been confirmed that Marlon is in fact going to be out on Sunday. He's got a 10-day window here to clear himself of the COVID. So he's going to be gone. Obviously, Ronnie's suffering a really, really tough injury, fractured and dislocated ankle, I think, after his leg got pinned under him on a TJ Watt sort of pushback. So, yeah, him signing that extension, it's great for him, but it really does suck to see that happen. And then immediately, you're calling into questions about, I don't want to say his future necessarily, but at least his short-term future. I mean, it's not going to be an easy recovery. Who knows how he's going to look if he even does play to start 2021. So a lot of questions right now, and they're kind of in a tough spot on a ledge a little bit, and they've got to fight their way off of it. And, like you mentioned, that's kind of the way that we want it, ultimately.
It is indeed. It feels right. Vasilios, WBAL, what's up, bro?
What's up, gent?
What up, guy? Glad to see you in here. But yeah, without further ado, I mean, we've done the existential stuff, and we'll continue doing it because we're weirdos, and that's how it ends up going. But let's bust into these listener questions. I'll get the Instagram out.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, bust down, Tatiana. We've got a whole big fat mailbag, and losing when you're a good team is so damn good for content. So thanks to the Ravens for that L. Moving into it, Jimmy Couture, very fancy boy. Jimmy Couture, 62. It actually was a decent game. I only saw a few minutes, but I'd say eliminate the turnovers. Yeah. Eliminate the turnovers. That was there's 4 catalysts in this game for me. It was turnovers, penalties, Ronnie Stanley, and Matt Judon. Those are the 4 catalysts for a loss. And I kind of tweeted out, I said, if you tell me no Ronnie Stanley, no Matt Judon, some turnovers, and a ton of penalties, I'd run to the sports book so fast I'd pull my hammy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, they're up 17-7 coming out of the half. And I mean, ultimately, like what this game comes down to for me, unfortunately, is the quarterback play. I mean, Lamar turned it over too many times. He had an interceptable pass, I believe. I don't really count that 4th down play as like a turnover. Like he was kind of just selling.
No. It was a turnover on downs anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And he was just selling out to get the first down. And it was kind of a weird play call, and we'll get into it. I didn't totally hate it, but it just kind of didn't go their way, and that's fine. But yeah, I mean, 2 bad interceptions, and he's just not a turnover-prone quarterback, and he just doesn't really throw interceptions. So I don't think you're really going to be seeing a whole lot of that moving forward this season. And I was talking about this a little bit on Twitter. I'm pretty encouraged by what I saw from the offense outside of the turnovers. So if you can clean that up, which I think he's probably pretty want to do because that's what he's shown that he does do, including after a game that they should have lost to the Steelers last year in Pittsburgh, where he turned it over a couple times and looked bad. He turned it around and the offense really got humming. And what I saw from the running game was really fucking impressive. And they managed to get some of these guys involved that we were clamoring for them to get involved. Willie Snead, Miles Boykin catching a touchdown. Great to see Devin Duvernay with a nice long reception to really keep the game alive. So, and then, Hollywood Brown getting a little salty about his involvement. We'll get into that as well. But, I was overall fairly encouraged by the offense because turnovers are really not a predictable thing. And especially when your offense and your quarterback have shown themselves to not be turnover prone, I'm going to count on him falling back from the mean to that and getting back to his old ways of taking care of the football. And outside of that, was really encouraged by the offense. So.
Yeah, it was tough outside of those turnovers. Even the Bud Dupree strip sack, I don't know what the hell you want Lamar to do there. The interceptions were inexcusable. The first one is like, okay, the first one happens and you're like, all right, 3rd play of the game,
Great play by that linebacker.
See, I thought so initially.
I haven't rewatched.
It's tough. It still could be. It's tough to tell. It's tough to tell, but
it
basically looked like
there, the background.
I hear my dog crying somewhere, and I don't know where it is. I have mine.
She's just gone off that booming loud. That CBD.
Yeah, and now hearing some whistles for him. But so I essentially don't know whether Spillane made a great play because what happened was Snead and Prochet both run sticks routes. They just run curls at the sticks. And you see Willie Snead kind of come open. Then you see my dogs are now attacking me.
It's because you're wearing the wild dog.
That's true. But yeah, okay. So Willie Snead comes open, and what it looked like was Lamar tried to put Spillane. The point of the play was to put Spillane in conflict, one of the linebackers in conflict, make them the force defender. Where Lamar looks to Snead and expects Spillane to jump at Snead, but Lamar kind of did it so quickly that Spillane got like 1 foot in the ground, and by the time Lamar came back to throw it to Prochet, Spillane hadn't even moved yet. So it's like Lamar. He just plays at like a different speed mentally. Like that's what makes him so good in the open field, but it leads to some weird throws and weird decisions sometimes like that, where he just rushed a little bit. And I mean, is he rushing? Is he dragging? Who knows? But he forced it, and you'd like to see a little more control, especially early in the game. And if that was the only one that happened, you can write that one off easily. The Ravens come back, end up on a weird drive. Steelers hit Lamar out of bounds, ends up scoring a touchdown, responds on that drive. The first play after the pick six was a Miles Boykin skinny post, fires one in there, gets any nervousness out. And
great throw.
Great throw. Boykin tracked the ball well. Boykin looks so much smoother. Disarmed a lot of negativity about him that has now gone elsewhere, as it has so often does. But then the other one happens, and it's like, that's a recurring theme against the Steelers. And we've said it, 1,000 people have said it. It just reminds you of the one last year before halftime where they run 2 out routes, like 5 and 9 yards at the same area in the outer short area, and he ends up throwing a pick to the in-between defender who can kind of cover two people because they're so fucking close to each other. And it's like Ricard and I believe Andrews. Was it Andrews or Boyle?
I think Andrews. Like I said, I haven't really rewatched too much.
I haven't gotten a rewatch yet either. It was one of the tight ends, and they're like 3 yards apart with Alex Highsmith between. And Lamar just doesn't see him and automates the throw. So it was a couple, premeditated throws. It felt like a little bit. And there was a defender there, man. And then the Joe Hayden one. Joe Hayden, it wasn't a terribly accurate ball, but Joe Hayden made a hell of a play on that ball. He jumped in front of that.
I audibly gasped when he leapt for it, and it looked like an interception for a second. I was like, how the fuck did he do that?
And sometimes guys make plays, and that ends up happening with Bud Dupree. Gus Edwards tries to fill on a offensive line slide to the left. He fills, and Bud Dupree is able to kind of sidestep his cut block. And while we'll get into what J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards did on the ground, Mark Ingram not explosive, but we've also never seen Mark Ingram miss one of those. He takes guys' legs out every time. So, that's something you hope rubs off onto Gus, and he kind of wasn't able to do that, and I don't think J.K. would have either. And it's unrealistic to expect one of those guys to block Bud Dupree, but tell you one thing, Mark Ingram doesn't miss that fucking block. Bud Dupree comes around. Lamar is trying to find Hollywood, who is wide open. Bud Dupree makes a play. Steelers have a good defensive line. They've literally an all-pro defensive line. All 5 of those guys could go on a first or second team all-pro. Dupree, Watt, Hayward, Tuitt, Alualu, all playing at a really high level. So shit happened. I was encouraged by Lamar bouncing back. I was discouraged by the turnovers. A go-ahead touchdown drive, and at the very end of the game, he gets them in, scoring position a little bit, drives down the field a bit. The clock doesn't get reset back to 18 seconds and whatever. We've heard some officials and former officials kind of chime in on that about how that was really ridiculous. I thought that one was egregious. I don't want to blame the refs on the penalties too much, but I'm sure we will.
I think the last one, in the moment I was kind of like, it looked a little sketchy, but they're not going to throw that. And that's fine. I get it. But there were just some other really mismanaged ones, including the fucking go-ahead run. Skura did not hold that guy. That was just not holding straight up. It kind of felt like they were reaching a little bit, and that would have been the touchdown. And ultimately they get cost. And that sucks, as well as the Cam Hayward getting injured. And, he's just fine now. Funny how that works out. He's fine. It's okay. But he was injured and down. And, of course they can't add time to the clock there. So this is just me putting my little conspiracy cap on for a second. But we don't have to delve too deep into that. But yeah, they boxed the clock, and they boxed a couple calls. And listen, the first one that went against the Steelers, where it was, I think, Hayward hitting Lamar late. He did hit him late, and I think a lot of quarterbacks get that call. So, yeah, you can call that a bad call all you want, but the Ravens got easily out-penalized by the Steelers. I think it was 10-3, and the yardages were insane. So I hate to be bitch about the refs guy, but it was pretty bad.
It's hard not to be bitcher about the refs guy when it's 21 penalties for 246 yards, while the opponents have had 6 for 53, I think, over the last 2 games. The offensive ones, holding is one thing, whatever, that I don't even want to get into that.
It's so
after the Chiefs game, it made me furious because
so inconsistently called.
Yes. And it was this whole thing about how holding's not getting called, and now it just continuously fucks the Ravens. But the illegal formations and the illegal shifts are a result of getting to the line too late. That is on the offensive coordinator, because we can see the play come in. We can see Lamar go into the huddle. We can see him look at his wristband and then get to the line, as well as on Lamar, who tries to make adjustments late. And sometimes, especially in the first half, sometimes you got to call timeout. Sometimes you got to call timeout in the first half. In the second half, they do burn a timeout on that challenge that was just, I don't understand.
They did that, right? Because I think you pointed out that they were celebrating. They weren't going to have time to get to the line anyway, so might as well just call the challenge and take the timeout.
They were going to have to call a timeout because it was going to be a delay of game.
Because Lamar was hugging Hollywood. They wouldn't have had time to get to the line. They would have at least lost 5 yards. So might as well just.
Hollywood has toe drag swag too, so it feels like he's going to make that catch, going to do it, and it was
it was.
This is what pisses me off.
Go ahead.
Jonnu Smith's ass cheek in, Hollywood Brown's shin not in.
Yeah, I think from there were a couple other angles that showed that maybe it kind of was fairly cut and dry. I would probably tend towards no touchdown on that, or just go with the call on the field. They called it no touchdown, so it's whatever. But yeah, it's, what are you going to do?
But that is the point of what I was going to say, and then I forgot. In college, it is consistently at this point, as opposed to making a desertion on the field, incomplete pass, the ruling on the field is under review. Complete pass, the ruling on the field is under review. Don't make a fucking call. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Don't make a call. The ref comes up, and what does he say? The ruling on the previous play is under review, because we don't know. The motherfucking human being standing
you sort of bake in a bias that they're gonna then adhere to one way or the other, and
because it has to be conclusive one way or the other.
They don't want to look
have
wrong.
To challenge it, and it's like this whole shit show. The previous play is under review. Thank you. That's all.
That's smart. We got to get you into the league office here.
It's in college football already. It happens in the NFL. You hear it in the NFL. The previous play is under review, and then they go review it, and they don't have to. It doesn't become this legislative courtroom freaking bullcrap where you have to have conclusive evidence, innocent until proven guilty, Your Honor. Like,
were you aware that Mr. Zuckerberg had his knee down in the back of the end zone when he was leading my clients to believe that it was not a catch?
We need Atticus Finch. That's who we need. But
yeah, he really doesn't have a lot of important things going on. He's got to worry about a football game.
Yeah, and maybe MD Law so hard. We'll get the bad boys in there.
Yeah. Too. Now we're really reaching for the top shelf here. Top
shelf liqueur. But yeah, I mean, B Rose originally asked, how concerned are you that Lamar may be regressing? Regressing how? What is the regression that he had? Like Russell Wilson.
It's all statistics. Like it's that, like I mentioned, that Mr. Michael David Smith over at Pro Football Talk and all the clowns over there that are like trying to push this narrative. Like we all talked about before the offseason, there was going to be statistical regression. We knew it was going to happen. It's happening right now. Keep your head and don't allow the moment to kind of overtake you here, and just, be ready to ride it out a little bit, because there's going to be some criticism and his numbers are not going to be the same. And he's not even probably playing up to the par that he was last year, but that's going to happen. There's been changes along the offensive line. There's been personnel changes and things change over the course of a year, and he had a shortened off season and all this shit. I mean, I'm not even trying to make excuses. I'm just saying there's human elements to this. And if you want to say he's regressed, okay, maybe a little bit, but not nearly enough to get me concerned literally at all.
So let's look. Everyone says that, 2019, why isn't it like 2019? 2019 was this, 2019 was that. The Ravens were this, the Ravens were that. Lamar was this, Lamar was that. 2019, the Ravens drummed the Dolphins. In 2020, the Ravens drummed the Browns. In 2019, the Ravens, played a game, a competitive game against the Cardinals. Won it there, kind of controlled the game for the most part, but they were in it. Texans, 2020. Week 3, Kansas City. Lamar doesn't play well. The defense doesn't play well. The Ravens lose to the Chiefs. 2020. Play a couple more teams. The Ravens end up losing to the Browns, so not exactly the exact same. Lamar played really shitty against the Browns. The offense was very bad. The defense couldn't, do what they were supposed to for 4 quarters.
Turnovers in that game, too.
Lobbing the ball downfield. I think he threw 3 picks in that game, 2 picks in that game.
He had an Ingram fumble.
Something like that. Andrews fumble.
I think it was Ingram, because I was sitting like 50.
I think, was that the game where Andrews tried to hurdle someone and fumbled? What game was that?
I don't think that was that one.
Anyway, and you mentioned, the Ravens went into Pittsburgh and turned the ball over. The Ravens play the Steelers and turn the ball over, but they won. It's really not different, is it? And in the end, if you go to footballoutsiders.com, Aaron Schatz, all those amazing people who do a great job, highly recommend their stuff. If you go to their commandments, their football commandments, speaking historically over the course of the NFL and football in general, the sign of a good team is not beating other good teams. It is drumming bad teams. And the Ravens do that. They still do. And like I said, what changes other than for one day the Ravens beat the Steelers? If Willie Snead catches a touchdown pass there, does it change everything? No, it doesn't make the Ravens a better or a worse team. But you know what it would change? It would change the media narrative. It would change the image. It would change the, perception of Lamar. He did it. Willie Snead made a crazy catch. He did it. Or, we saw yesterday in the Broncos game, Drew Lock gets a PI, comes back, does the thing, and everyone's on Drew Lock's dick. If that was a PI at the end of the game, which I really don't even think it was, Ravens get the ball at the 1, say they score the touchdown. Does that make Lamar, oh, he did it. No, it's the same fucking result, just a couple points apart. Like, it's the same game. The one play, the defining play, the end, all of that is not – the one game is not defining. One, unless it's a Super Bowl, one moment, one play, those things aren't defining in November. When you're 5-1, 5-2, it's not this huge – you don't have to have these huge takeaways from it. Lamar played like shit. He threw 2 stupid interceptions. Bud Dupree made a play on him and got stripped. He couldn't get a first down on 4th down. Yeah, all of those things are true. It happens. Mahomes last year had this whole he was MVP.
What's wrong with Mahomes? Yeah.
What's wrong with Mahomes? Has he regressed? No. And Jake, you always say a line that I love. Quarterback progression is not linear. It is not this straight, unwavering line. It's up and down and jagged and peaks and valleys, and it trends up, hopefully. And, Lamar's isn't trending up yet, but let's talk at the end of the season after they play the goddamn Jaguars and the Cowboys, Giants.
Yeah.
They have the Bengals again, and look, the Bengals, who everyone said was the worst team ever, and the Ravens should have won 40-3, and the Ravens threw the ball too much, blah, 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 blah. Haven't lost a game by 2 scores, beat the Titans, are not a bad football team at all. And I think at the end of the year, Ravens are, where we thought they would be, 11-5, maybe 12-4. Now that Stanley's gone and some other problems, maybe 10-6, but they're going to make it to the dance. Put them back, run it back, let them go on the road, let them be the underdogs, let everybody talk their shit, and play Baltimore Ravens football.
My main sort of takeaway, referring back to that Brandon Marshall take about how the league is called up to Greg Roman, my tweet that I, had some traction this morning was there is no team in NFL history that I've seen have sweeping referendums offered up on after every single week than the 2020 Ravens. As someone who covers the team up close, it's pretty goddamn exhausting, and that sums up all my thoughts on it. Like, there's just every single week, like, win or loss. If the win wasn't pretty enough, we've got to talk about, well, what does this mean for the next couple weeks? Can they play, or can they win these big games? And then they play in this that is a proverbial big game to some people, and they play well in some ways, but they don't get the win, and they have some turnovers, and it's not pretty. So we've got to talk about Greg Roman and this big picture situation where it's like, do they have to fire Greg Roman? Like, do they have to hire David Culley? Like, what's wrong with Lamar? What's wrong with X, Y, and Z? It's like, there are some problems for sure, and it's not going to get a whole lot better, especially without Ronnie Stanley, but I don't know. Like, it's not going to get better immediately, but it might ultimately wind up getting better a couple weeks down the line, maybe a month or so down the line or whatever, when they find some rhythm. And then it's like, we don't have to fawn all over them and talk about how amazing they are, like we probably were doing at points during 2019 last season. It's a very, very long season. And what's so sort of diametrically different with a football season is that it is so long. It's like 4 or 5 months, whatever, but you only get one game a week. So you've got to sit there and stew in it for 6 days and react and talk about every single game, like it's in a snow globe and it's a microcosm in and of itself. And ultimately that's what leads to sort of the reactionary attitude, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating as somebody who is very much on the front lines, as are you, kind of covering this team in whatever capacity we're covering it and kind of just being right there. I talk about it with listener of the show, Eric, and my brother also listens. And like, they're always like, yeah, man, you're on the front lines. We can kind of just like listen to your pod, or we can like do whatever we want and check out and like go back to our jobs. And like, for me, I kind of can't. Like, I'm right in the middle in the thick of it. And it really does kind of aggravate me when I see Brandon Marshall and like Dan Orlovsky and whoever else like making these sweeping, like generalized statements about
that's
like,
what they get paid to do, though. Like, they have to talk about football every day for hours. And
I'm not even blaming them.
Engaged. It's like,
yeah. I'm not even blaming them necessarily. Like, that's entertainment that I frankly used to like. It's probably part of the reason that I'm doing this, but like, it's just it's my own issue where that shit just infuriates me. And it's, I think maybe me maturing a little bit is, trying to see the bigger picture of things. It's just frustrating ultimately. But I think if you're somebody who watches something like that and then gets legitimately concerned about Greg Roman, I'm just telling you to maybe calm down a little bit and like wait it out, because a football season is an extremely long thing and a team's development, whatever you want to call it, is not linear, as you mentioned there. So that's just sort of my take on that, as Daniel Jones throws an interception.
Wow. I have some money on the Buckaroos, so hopefully that goes well. Yeah, it's like hot take city. And I mean, I was pissed when Lamar played like shit in Pittsburgh last year. I wrote articles and made videos about like, oh my God, he's so bad in the pocket right now. This is really worrisome. He might not be a good passer, like all of that stuff. And now in hindsight, that was stupid and a rash thought on a bad game. Sounds similar to me. People will say we're being too harsh on Lamar. This game was on him. He needs to improve by a foot. Sure. Moving on. Pocket poise is the main priority. Get that and you have a shot. Sure. He was a little antsy in the pocket without Ronnie Stanley. Right guard goes down, which is not the biggest deal in the world because I don't think there's a huge drop-off there, but sure. I mean, he led them down the field, scored a go-ahead touchdown. That's the thing. Like, he bounced back in this game multiple times.
That's where I really don't get concerned about these turnovers. Like, it kind of felt like with Flacco sometimes where, like, he would throw a pick and it's like, oh, fuck. Like, when are they going to get another chance? Like, there were times on Sunday where Lamar would make a mistake like that. And I'm like, is it going to be one of those games? And I feel like sometimes when he does have an early turnover, you think that, but he always just bounces back. And whether it's him getting it done or it's Roman, whoever else on the offense, just sacking the fuck up and saying, we're just going to drive this ball down the field where it needs to be and we're going to get it done. Like, I feel much more confident after he, kind of turned it around and kind of made a game of it after he made some really tough mistakes. He doesn't, as much as he is an emotional player and that can be to his detriment at times, he really does kind of ride the wave and allow himself to stay in it because of the passion that he plays with. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, he fired back. I mean, scored a go-ahead touchdown. The Steelers end up getting the face mask, the defensive, the DPI, and then floating a touchdown to Claypool. And the ball comes back. That leads to the 4th and 3 drive.
Great job, CBS, showing the replay on that pass interference. I mean, I'm sure there was maybe some call for it, but like not even seeing replay is kind of tough. And then they suck themselves off talking about their like producer or whatever's birthday. It's classic CBS right there.
Classic CBS. Yeah, great job, guys. Haven't rewatched that one. I'm sure it was a PI, whatever. But it was up and down. They rebounded. They played like crap. I mean, he threw 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions. Is that insane that people are like, he can't get it done. He can't do it. He threw 2 picks in a game. 2 T-W-O. I almost said T-O-O. Oh, my God. 2 T-W-O. The number 2. 2 picks. 2 interceptions. Oh, my God. 3 interceptable passes. Holy shit. That happens all the time to everyone except Aaron Rodgers. All the time. It's like Russell Wilson threw 3 picks against the Cardinals. He threw a game-losing interception in overtime. To the Cardinals, I scout the Cardinals for SIS. I know them. They're this team I know the second most about, maybe the Steelers, second most about in the NFL. The Cardinals used Isaiah Simmons on 5 snaps defensively. 3 of them were in a 1-5-5. They had 1 down lineman. The Cardinals lined Isaiah Simmons up over the A gap in that 1-5-5 3 times. They dropped him into coverage all 3 times. The 3rd time, Russell Wilson threw it right to him for an interception. Shit happens. No one is perfect.
Like I think there would be more cause for concern if he didn't, like we mentioned, bounce back and move the ball well. And like I mentioned, like, I don't want to be just Johnny positive, but like there are definitely positive takeaways. Like they got Boykin going, they got Snead going, they moved the ball consistently, they won on early downs. They got J.K. Dobbins over 100 yards. He looked fucking awesome. They had a really, solid game outside of the turnovers. So like, I would not be singing this tune. Like, I promise you, I would not be trying to spin anything positive if it had been kind of the more of the same, where they're losing on early downs and they're getting behind in the count. It's this feast or famine type offense. It was a lot more consistent and they spread the ball around a lot more, despite what Hollywood kind of thinks. And yeah, it was just an impressive performance in that respect. And the turnovers are what cost them, and that's on Lamar, and he's going to get better, and that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, he has to be better in these games. He can't throw 2 picks. It's bad. You don't want to throw 2 picks. It's 32 picks. If you do it every game, but he doesn't. So that's why we don't have these big takeaways. Big Von 803, we didn't have a terrible game. We didn't have a good game. We gonna get that ass on Thanksgiving, though. They're going to stuff that turkey. I believe so as well. Jay Cook 90. Do you think we should have kicked a field goal in 4th of 2, could have won? No, I don't. Lamar's really good in the red zone. That was a second red zone turnover, the strip by Dupree. I like Lamar in the red zone. I like 4th and 3. I made that comment on Twitter, theoretically, in hindsight, it's fun to look at and say, yeah, they could have kicked a field goal. Butterfly effect. Different things happen. The ball gets kicked off. Ball goes somewhere else. Penalty on the defense on the ensuing drive. They only have 2 timeouts. I think because they only had 2 timeouts, they had to kick that or had to go for it there.
This isn't a field goal franchise anymore. Like it was for a while, and like that was that, and it wasn't particularly fun. I was going to say it was fun, but it wasn't. Like this team goes for touchdowns and they go for the win and they're aggressive, and that's a good spot to be in, honestly, as a fan. And I don't know. I mean, you look at that game against the Chiefs, they did kick a field goal early when they had a 4th and short, and it wound up not being too significant of a decision. Ultimately, obviously, this is a much different situation, but I'm always a go for it guy. I like the aggression. You're going to have to settle it at some point anyway. Might as well settle it right there and put some faith in your defense, who played fairly well today. They had some hiccups, but they had a pretty good game. Yeah, go for it there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to because you don't have 3 timeouts. I can't recall if had the 2-minute warning occurred yet?
Yeah, so it kind of led right into that. They essentially used the 2-minute as a timeout to draw up their play for the 4th down. Then they ran it, and you had like 1:56 or whatever left in 2 timeouts. So you were going to get it back with like 1:10 or whatever, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe had to go for it there, but it's fun to look at in hindsight and be like, damn, presented a different scenario, and maybe the Ravens would still be able to get a stop, and maybe you do want to bet on your defense when the offense is struggling. It's tough call, but I support going for it still, just because it's their process. It is treated very well.
If they had kicked a field goal, the Steelers would have gotten a 1st down. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Maybe
not. I don't know. The thing is, we don't know. We don't know.
We certainly do not.
WR Shop 3. Why don't we have Lamar roll out anymore? Are you bait? That's bait. I'm not doing that one.
Yeah, we definitely have. What game you're watching, but
are we running any more crossing routes? They're on digs a lot of digs.
The old route combo question. I know you love that.
Yeah. Moving on, Miko Creech with 919. Why wasn't the time put back on the clock when Hayward went down with an injury? I don't know. I do not know.
They're fucking stupid, and I don't know if they're not trained correctly. I don't know. They did this whole thing where they made them full time. I don't know if that is still the case, but for whatever reason, they're just not good. And I'm not saying you have to replace them with robots or anything, but man, it was fucking egregious sometimes. And I mean, there were a few calls that maybe went against the Steelers, and maybe you had a missed PI on Jimmy Smith or a hold or whatever, but man, watching Lamar fucking dodge, duck, dip, dive, and then dash into the end zone for what should have been or could have been a game-winning touchdown to get called back on a ticky-tack Matt Skura hold, which just was not a hold straight up. And then, I mean, that's one thing, but then to just completely botch that entire final sequence and cost them 8 seconds and maybe like 1 or 2 plays, that's just really, really bad. So refs are terrible, and that's the answer.
Yes. Sam I Am. I was about to say some Samiam or something. Sam I Am 328. With glaring holes at cornerback and on the offensive line, does this change the Ravens trade deadline strategy? And another question that I'm going to put in because it's going to go in with my answer that's right next to it. Any salary cap implications because of Ronnie Stanley? Asked by Whitehead Will. Whitehead Will. I guess it's his last name. I was like thinking of, never mind, I won't say it. Cornerback and offensive line, trade deadline. I think Stanley's injury puts them in a really weird spot ahead of the trade deadline where I think they kind of have to sit pat Maybe you see like a small trade. I could be totally wrong, as I have been before. Didn't see Ngakoue coming. Didn't see Peters coming. Those were out of the blue to me. But to me, it is just strange because you signed Stanley to this extension. You trade for Ngakoue. You trade a third and a potential fifth. That's a good bit of draft capital, especially if he just becomes a rental. If you want to trade for offensive line, you're like doing it to not even tread water. You're doing it to like slightly drown instead of just drown. Without Stanley, you're not going to get the same quality of playback. It's going to cost a lot to get anything remotely close to like a good starter as a tackle, like a first-round pick if it's not a rental, or a second-round pick at the least. Pardon me, I would think. So it's just weird. I don't know what they to me, it makes sense to do it for cornerback just because you're so razor thin right now. Like a Brian Poole, Des King, we saw go for a sixth. That makes me think Brian Poole goes for like an eighth. Can of Coke and a cola, or a can of corn and a cola. I don't know.
You crush that.
Yeah, a can of corn and a cola, I'll be fine. But I don't know what the hell he goes for, or someone like that. They have to do something with the DBs. Marlon Humphrey out. Like now they have four again. It's Dorsey and Bonds and Jimmy and Marcus Peters. Not enough to play a game against the Colts. One of them goes down, you have three. And
Bonds
then
slowly etching his way onto the bas relief of Ravens cornerbacks that everyone just hates because they get forced into action and are like not starting caliber players. And maybe he'll turn things around, but a rough outing from him this past Sunday, and people are already starting up the Terrell Bonds hate club. So we're going to see what happens with him.
Just call up like Asa Jackson and Shockey Brown and all those guys. See what they're
doing. That one dude, Melvin, actually wound up having a little bit of a career.
Oh, yeah. Rashawn Melvin. Yeah, he's had a good career.
Yeah, but he had a rough 2014. But yeah.
Kerry Williams
Shockey
was
Brown.
Pretty good at one point, but he used to get beat up on. Who's Jimmy Smith's buddy that they signed?
Corey Graham?
No. Corey Graham was good. Who? What the hell was his name? It was Jimmy.
Yeah, Sharice Wright.
Sharice Wright. He was the culprit.
Yeah. He had a rough go of it.
He did have a rough go of it. But yeah, cornerback, they got to do something. And salary cap implications of Ronnie Stanley, like, no, there's not. I mean, they signed him and he'll be back. Hopefully he fully recovers from that as much as he can.
He'll be fine. They're not going to like rush it or anything. He'll be okay.
Yeah, hopefully he's good. Big man on a bad foot is never good, though. So hopefully that goes well.
Sheesh.
What?
Sharice wrong by Vasilios. He's definitely doing the Antonio Banderas like gif where he crushed that.
He did crush that. Just a black _guy. Other than the 4 turnovers, the offense at least seems back on track. I was driving home until 2:30 was left in the game. The rushing game looked really good. Yeah. Again, the fumbles don't concern me at all. The 2 fumbles do not concern me. I'm very glad that no one else fumbled. Lamar has cut that problem from his rookie year, very much so. Read option stuff, not a problem. All that good stuff. Not a problem. The 2 picks, at the end of the day, it was 2 interceptions. It was his first multi-interception game this year. Right? Am I wrong there? No.
I think so, right?
2 of them did come against someone. I don't know. I might be wrong, but still hasn't thrown 3 picks in a game. Shit happens. They usually don't turn the ball over.
First pick 6, actually.
First pick 6 of his career too. Yep. Not terrible. Joe Boken and JC, we should have relied on 15 and 89 more. We get it, but why are Ravens fans so sensitive? It's tough. The Steelers take Mark Andrews away and they give deep help to Hollywood Brown. They do that more than anyone does. Thank you, Vasilios. First multi-interception game since Pittsburgh last year.
There you go.
Titans maybe in postseason. Was that multiple picks? That was regular. That was postseason though, so it's not
fumble.
Something like that. But 18. Geez, I keep mixing stuff up today. 15 and 89 get taken away. That's the name of the game. That's why we saw Willie.
The reason we're calling them 15 and 89 is because Jesse Bates called them 15 and 89 and said that that's all they throw to. And then they went out there and threw to Willie Snead, who was very effective, and Miles Boykin made some plays. And it's like we can't just keep flip-flopping the narrative. Like they got taken away. and guys made plays in their absence against the most badass defense they're going to see this year. So we probably don't have to like freak out about that.
Yeah, the Steelers did the same thing to Mark Andrews last year. They combo cover him. They basically form a shape around him. We've talked about that ad nauseum on this podcast. Happens. Hollywood, sure. I mean, what, you want to see some deep shots to him? Sure. They've drawn them up. They haven't quite hit on them. Hollywood voiced some frustration. I don't hate it. I don't hate Hollywood, getting a little pissed off. Give him the touches, whatever. I don't think that's some crazy thing. And hard to imagine that's directed at Lamar, because they ride home from the game together. So don't think he's going to be like tweeting while he's driving with Lamar sitting there. Unless maybe they did. Who knows? But that dude Shores, why aren't we spreading teams out more often? They do too much. They run too much empty, and Lamar hasn't been good. He threw a pick out of empty on third down, threw a pick 6 out of empty. Read option spread.
They emptied them out to try and spread them out and do the 4th and 3 QB draw, which I feel like it would have worked if you didn't have like defenders over top the line and they were actually spread out. So yeah, positives and negatives with going empty.
The empty formations have been awful. They are dead last in EPA out of empty in the NFL. Last year they were first. That has been an issue for sure. Teams are defending it much differently.
Sounds like the glass is half empty on empty.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Read option threat still there and more scramble lanes. Yeah, run the ball down their throat on 4th and 3. Sure, I get that, whatever. I kind of like putting it in Lamar's hands, maybe on a pass play instead, where there's some more options than that, and it's not really the all or nothing. I kind of can extend the play and maybe find a way. He creates good angles when he starts moving around in the passing game back there. Maybe have a guy like Boyle chip, something like that. Would have been nice maybe. But moving on, simple question. Githens Mazer, simple question. Why does Roman abandon the run? Let's see here. He abandoned the run to the tune of 47 carries for 265 yards. Abandoned the run. Why does he do that?
He doesn't. I feel like people are kind of conflating that with just the fact that the run game just hasn't either been great or at least hasn't been consistent. And that's something that PFF Gordon has been all over. Like, they are running it and it's just kind of not working at certain times. And that's why they go to the pass, but it worked today, or Sunday, I should say. And it worked really well. J.K. Dobbins looked great. Edwards, he kind of did his thing. He just got forward, and Lamar made a few plays in the run, and he had one called back that, shouldn't have been called back. So what are you going to do? They definitely ran the ball hard, and, this is not a game where I think people should really be criticizing Greg Roman. I'm going to keep hammering that. I think he called a decent game, and they lost their left tackle and they had to shuffle things around. So really a tough spot to be in. And I think they came out looking pretty good ultimately.
I agree. I think they did look pretty good, especially on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, you mentioned. Gus Edwards was great. Let's see. Rushing yards over expectation per attempt. J.K. Dobbins averaged 1.39 yards over expectation per carry. He averaged 7.5 yards per carry. That means on J.K. Dobbins rushes, the expectation, the absolute average, the mean would have gotten 6.11 yards per carry. 6.11 yards per carry out of a completely average running back. That's insane without Ronnie Stanley for most of the game. That's insane overall. That's insane considering the Steelers are outstanding against the run typically. Dobbins looked like he was the real deal. That will give them a lot of confidence moving forward. And Jake, I think you hit the nail on the head. What was the difference in this game kind of for the Ravens offense? At times it was the fresh legs. Dobbins isn't worn down. He's not beat up at all. This was the first time he's gotten real usage. It feels like they've known all along he's fine. He's going to be a problem once we get him going. And they waited till after the bye week. He's fully integrated. His little, COVID preseason and the regular season's over. They might trust him a little more. And he gashed the Steelers consistently. It wasn't just one run. It was over and over. I believe he forced 7 missed tackles. Insane. Great game from Dobbins. Very encouraging.
That's what I'm saying. Is it worth it to beat the Bengals by 14 more points, for whatever EPA he's going to bring you by involving him however much more? Or would you rather have him with a full head of steam, ready to just rip and snarl against the Steelers and go for 100 yards? And obviously it didn't win them the game, but it made a huge difference in getting the offense going and looking very consistent. So that's kind of, I don't want to be Mr., I was right about that, but it kind of feels like I was on the money there. So that's, something to take away from this.
Yeah, I really like that take at the time, and I think it proved well. Gus Edwards, 12 yards over expectation, not a ton, but he was doing dirty work and busted off one big run there. So long story short, back to the question, they don't abandon the running game, man. They run the ball more than any other team. They run the ball more than anyone. It's like the lesson never gets learned. They couldn't throw the ball effectively enough when they needed to against the Titans. They need to work on it. They need to keep having in-game experience for a young offense, a young quarterback. They need to get this shit on film, get it right. They can run the ball whenever they want, and they do run the ball all the time. They need to be able to throw the ball if they want to win a Super Bowl. If that's not the goal, if your goal is to feel happy at the end of games in the regular season and, on a team that's still going to the playoffs unless some crazy derailment happens, I don't know what to tell you. They need to throw better. And PFF Gordon McGinnis, on the money. They have to throw the ball well to be a legitimate threat. So, go look. We talk about the Bengals. You bring up the Bengals game. I brought up the Bengals earlier, just beat the Titans. Derrick Henry ran all over the Bengals, but they couldn't throw the ball, and the Bengals trounced them. You have to be able to throw the ball in this league to win. The Steelers didn't need to run the ball.
I think there's maybe a little bit of I don't know if I'd say a disconnect, but I think people in analytics communities really scoff at the fact that using the run to set up the pass is like a smart idea in 2020. But I feel like it kind of worked a little bit on Sunday because when the running game, I don't want to say it hasn't been there at all this season, but it was definitely inconsistent and like teams weren't fearing their running game for, stretches, I think, throughout games. And that I think affected their ability to pass it a little bit. So just having that extra element and like doing whatever it was that they were doing to get Snead and Boykin a little more confidence and get them open, and Snead especially finding soft spots and just making plays after the catch was really fucking impressive. So I think the running game getting going is going to be pretty huge for helping to set the pass game up, at least in some of these short and intermediate areas, and allowing certain other guys to get open, because there's at least sort of another element that you have to fear.
Yeah, and I think the explosiveness of Dobbins is going to pay off a lot. Moving forward without Stanley, they're going to have to run the ball more to try and, counteract the loss of Stanley and negate negative plays, take a little pressure off Lamar, knowing that Stanley's not there, and probably going to see Fluker starting, it feels like. But yeah, moving on, Tanner Smith 302. We're clearly the better team and just need to fix small errors.
I don't think they are clearly the better team. I think the Steelers are awesome. I think it's a toss-up at most.
I think the Steelers, I think it's a toss-up. I think that the Ravens the Steelers stole that one. It wasn't.
The Ravens should have won, I think, pretty clearly. But like the Steelers are an ass-kicking football team. They're really good.
I really don't think they're that great. I really still don't think they're that great. But they are. This is what the Steelers are. They're well-balanced. They have a experienced, smart, mentally sharp, unwavering veteran quarterback, and they have a super talented defense.
Where I'm at with the Steelers is like, if another team looked like that, like, okay, but they're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they have a tremendous coaching staff and one of the best head coaches in the league, who is, I don't know if I'd say disrespected or maybe a little underrated. And I think that's an underrated element of all of this. And it's kind of what I say about the Ravens year in and year out. Nobody wants to give Harbaugh credit because, he's not calling offense or defense or anything, but I think just the ability to coach guys up and emphasize certain things and kind of get preparation correct. I think the Steelers are just as good in that department. So I think some of the talent that they have, particularly, like we talk about the Ravens not being able to pass it, the Steelers are able to pass it. They have a great coaching staff. They can kind of run it when they need to, and their defense is badass. So I think they're really, really good.
Their defense is definitely good, but I don't know. I mean,
they definitely should. Like, the Ravens handed them that game, like on a silver platter, and they capitalized. I mean, to their credit,
they got a pick six. They drove down the field and scored twice. They had one blown coverage, as my dog is making a ruckus on the carpet.
He agrees with me. That's the thing.
But yeah, they drove down the field twice. once abated by penalties. I mean, again, I think they're a good team. I think they're very well balanced. They're opportunistic. They don't make a ton of crazy mistakes. They can put up points. They can play defense. They're just very well balanced, very well coached. I don't think they're an elite team. I think that they're
I don't think that either.
deceitful.
I think the Chiefs are an elite team, and I think nobody else is. But I think
what's the score of the Bucs game? I don't care. I still think the Bucs are very good.
50, yeah, okay, Bucs too. 15-14.
15-14. There we go, Bucs. Yeah, I think the Bucs are up there as well. I like the Bucs a lot. But yeah, they were the better team on Sunday, and that's all that mattered.
I don't see on Thanksgiving. Funny enough, I think the Ravens played better, but whatever. We don't have to keep relitigating. Sure.
John C. Amos, my boy. If the Steelers get the 1 seed in home field, are they the AFC favorite? Hell to the no. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Little team called Chiefs that everyone is, I don't want to say forgetting about, but it's probably going to get lost in the shuffle with the Steelers being 8-0 and everyone riding their D's. Little guy named Patrick Mahomes, who, listen, he's being super disrespected right now. Not every, morning talk show is talking about how he's God's greatest gift to ever grace the motherfucking earth. So he's going to be coming back with a vengeance and flexing and counting to 4 and doing whatever the fuck his corny ass does. So the Chiefs are still the favorite in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. There, Alex Bitzel, how did you see Ngakoue addition affect the defensive game plan? Haven't gotten a rewatch through the all 22 yet. I got like 1 or 2 drives in. Been very busy, but
I tried to watch him. It didn't seem like he did much on the few things that I saw, but they have a good offensive line.
I mean, he just got traded. It's
yeah,
tough,
yeah. I mean, like, we don't have to
scale that stuff.
That's another thing that we don't have to like litigate every single week is how does Ngakoue look? Let's just let it.
It's going to be his usage is going to be stunts. They're going to want him clean. They want him to be the clean rusher. He finishes, big finisher, better finisher than Judon. That we saw.
Didn't he actually didn't finisher back in Towson?
That's true.
Yeah.
So I always finish my pizza. Crust. I'll eat the whole crust. Ngakoue is gonna be in the twist. He's gonna be the looper on a lot of stunts. That's how.
Great movie, by the way. I just watched it for the first time last week.
Haven't seen it in a long time.
It's good.
It is good. One Shea 100. The loss is good. Get it out of the way. It takes that loss to realize changes that need to be made. I agree. You learn a lot more from failure and loss than you do from success. And again, I'm glad this game is put on tape. I'm glad Lamar has this game. I'm glad, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and bullshit. And they can, I like the fact that Hollywood got a little pissy. I like that.
That's what Rocky says. Hey, Adrian, this world ain't all sunshine and roses. Gonna have to get knocked down here and there.
Exactly.
That's John Henson saying Unique had a sack with Ferguson. So he's on the board.
He does, yeah. He did have a half sack with Ferguson. Ferguson looked outstanding. Jalen looked really good. He is holding the edge like a tank. He looks leaner than he's ever been in his life. He has shed a lot of bad weight, it looks like, too. Playing really fast. He's able to kind of cover into the flats, do some things, move. He has range to the sideline. He has such great length as a tackler. He can drag people down from so far away. I love that about him. Super long, super, super, super long. Think if with another good offseason, he might be a beast next year. He already kind of is one. Loving the fact that he got a little bit more run. That was a silver lining of Judon getting out of the game there, which was a shit show. My God. I'm sure we'll get a question about that, so we'll keep moving on. Y-Star piece, 4 turnovers, piling penalties, and only lost by 4. Take any of them away, it's a W. Oh, any of those turnovers away, and it's a W. The last one, probably not, because that was a turnover on downs, so technically I'll give you that one. Yeah. I think one less turnover, and Ravens are in shape.
That was not a turnover, and like
it was a turnover on downs.
Sure, but like that's not like a fault by him. That was a play call that he just kind of wasn't set up to succeed on, and didn't. So
and certainly could have still. We've seen him do much crazier. Steelers are just tough. That's like, here's what I'll say about that play call. I don't love it considering the aptitude of the Steelers defense mentally.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like they had guys up over the top, and like this is me, meatball fan. But when I play Madden and I call that, it works really well if you have a fast quarterback and there's literally nothing in front of you. Like I mentioned earlier, like
the A gaps have to be open so that the center can go out and get it.
Both gaps. Yeah, I mean, like if you want to choose one or the other. But there were like 3 guys over top of him, from what I remember, kind of just waiting for him to like make a move, and he did it, and it failed.
It failed. Yeah,
I maybe would have liked a pass option, but like I really don't hate that play call there. Like he's the best player on the field in my opinion. So put the ball in his hands, see if he can make a play. Didn't work.
Sure,
it worked. It worked in Seattle.
Seattle was a very different play. Very different.
Well, yeah. But
I would have loved that one.
I'm just saying in the sense of 4th down, big play, they call his number. It worked in that situation. Didn't work here.
See, that would have been sick if they lined up in jumbo. Oh my god!
And just ran him to the right and get him like whatever one block that he needs, and they spring it, and it would have been pretty fun, Jim. But it didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Michael Murr, 12. Simply put, what were your thoughts on Lamar's performance? Rushed those throws. The turnovers not good. The 2 picks were really bad. The throw where Hayden came pretty close to picking that one off too. That would have been way, way, way worse. So you basically have to look at that like it was a pick. It's an interceptable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like just because it's the same effect of saying, what does the touchdown do? It doesn't change the fact that he threw a bad pass that easily could have been intercepted.
And that is the converse of the fact that turnover on downs wasn't a turnover. I mean, you can kind of call
sure.
it.
Yeah, I like that. So too much of that. Rushed a little bit, but like the throw to Duvernay was fucking money. He drew Minka over, and Minka jumped on a route under it, and then you just see Minka move, turn, Duvernay.
Some of the fire drill plays he made were incredible. Like he had one to Andrews that's going to get lost to history, where he kind of sidestepped a guy, shook a dude off, and then like just whipped it to him sidearm, and Andrews took off. It was I think a critical 3rd down. So huge there. Some of the throws to Snead late, where they had the penalty that knocked him back, and then he's like completing this pass to Snead, who's making a huge play after the catch.
That was like a little bit of an extended one too, where you had to wait on it and move with it, and then gets the one to Snead. Yeah,
and like it sucks that fucking Skura penalty got called, because if he had made that run into the end zone, like you talk about the conversation being different, like people would be singing his praises about like, oh my God, like this just shows the determination of this player. Like he made the play, and they just called it back for literally no reason.
Yeah, that Lamar run will get lost of him getting
that
loose.
Was incredible. Like that, I mean, that wasn't even like one of the other people talk about him scrambling. He's much more of a designed runner than he is a scrambler, but that is one of the best scrambles I've ever seen, like from any quarterback. And like he made the play.
Yeah, that was nuts. I'll definitely be posting that one. Ken Beller, we aren't going to talk about the penalties. Have to be happy with the play with injuries, and he said suspension, but I guess he means ejection. Overcoming those, especially in the run game, and having that go-ahead touchdown, having a couple drives there, huge without Stanley. It definitely is encouraging, as opposed to maybe Stanley going down and then the offense just not doing a damn thing the rest of the day, and maybe it turned, like, let's say the game turned into more of just like Steelers kick a field goal, Ravens punt, Steelers kick a field goal, Ravens punt, that kind of thing. So the offense is able to move the ball still. So definitely encouraging. The penalties, I mean, they speak for themselves. Some of them, meh. Some of them, stupid on the Ravens' behalf. Have to get those illegal formations and illegal shifts out. Those can't go. Guys owe push-ups for those. The good Owen, Dez in the game next is a decoy to draw away defenders. Sure. Scholl 13. How about Claypool calling the Ravens ratbirds? Marcus Peters stripped his ass. And you know what I love about?
Where did he say that?
I've heard it a bunch of times. He must have said it after the game or something. You know what I love about Marcus Peters? When someone pisses him off, all of a sudden he turns into like a badass tackler. Like, he doesn't miss tackles. When he gets like all mad, when he gets like fiery, he doesn't miss tackles. When he's in like,
and he takes pride in like burying guys too. Like
after he gets pissed. Him and Deontay have that bullshit go on, and he stuffed Deontay Johnson on that final drive on, I think, 2nd down. Johnson beat him, and Deontay Johnson breaks a shitload of tackles. He is really tough to get down. awesome after the catch. And Peters dragged him right down. Great tackling there. I love that about Marcus Peters. So whatever, fuck Chase Claypool. Shoal 13, do you still trust Lamar as a passer? Yes. Moving on, Kurtz Prio. Why is Lamar regressed? We talked about that. Mr. Joseph, offense did not play bad. Take away the miscues. You can't take them away. That's the thing. You can't take them away. They did throw the picks. But, yeah, they moved the ball still. Tons of yards. Didn't finish in the red zone every time, which is big. Adam Jones, our favorite Gold Glover. 357, tough loss, but we will bounce back and beat them. Until then, a lot of critics and questions will come. Yes, and I hope that the Ravens thrive under that, and I hope that they fall out of the spotlight, and pundits talk about the Steelers and the Chiefs and the Seahawks and, all those teams. Those are the darlings. Let them be.
And the Ravens were like mired in mediocrity. There gave me no more joy than when the Steelers would be the toast of the town through the regular season and then go to Foxborough and just get thumped every year in the divisional or the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Or lose to the Jaguars at home, which was sick.
That was so sick. Blake Bortles, MVP. Enjoy Slurms. Also, is it worth mentioning how horrendous how horrendous the reffing was in this game, but I'm not trying to be that guy.
Nobody's trying to be that guy, but it was fucking awful in this game. So we're that guy for this week, and this week alone until proven. Well, maybe not this week alone until proven otherwise. How about that? How about that?
Joy Slurms also asked, adversity or not, this is a shameful loss. This team is undisciplined at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure John Harbaugh is, just going to be totally cool with it and let all the penalties slide. They're not going to get an earful about that or anything. So undisciplined. Especially the offensive ones. Those ones are inexcusable. The good Owen, this is more of a suggestion, but next game I think we should put Dez in. Is this Dez Bryant? He's asked 2 questions. They're both about Dez. Okay, put Dez Bryant in. There you go, Dez. ZJ Ballard, 310. Losing Stanley is brutal. The team will overcome it. He also said no need to attack because I said attack us with questions. Main positive takeaways from this game. Main positive takeaway from this game. The run game looks amazing. Sure. Geestwood, 619. People got to stop acting like we're 0-7 and Lamar's ass. We didn't just go 14-2 and beat good teams for nothing. Yeah, they're 5-2. They're fine. B-Rose 931, our boy. Is it heavy-handed to say Lamar cost us the game? B-Rose 931 sneaking in a lot of Lamar questions. Feels like he probably bought a jersey and is like thinking it was a bad idea. That's my guess. Feels like he did. Yeah, like you can say Lamar cost him the game, but then he throws a go-ahead touchdown for his 3rd touchdown in like 4 plays. He bounced back like it was just a back-and-forth game. This is I got to imagine. Sorry to cut you off. I have to imagine this is kind of, and media is obviously different, but this is probably kind of what it was like to be an early Brett Favre fan, like in the 90s. Because like that dude was just going out there and he was either going to win you the game or fucking lose you the game. And like it was a lot of fun.
There's a lot of pressure on him, on Brett Favre. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, MVP in his own right, Brett Favre, and a Super Bowl champion. So, could be worse.
Right. A lot of peaks and valleys, so to say. I think we see that with Lamar too. Sure. And the good usually outweighs the bad. The Super Sport page. Do you think the reason why Lamar isn't playing good is because of the Madden curse? Yes. J-Rose 093. Can Gus or JK become the starter over Mark? They'll have their situations. I mean, there's times where I would like Mark Ingram on the field when you kind of know running is out the window and you need somebody in the backfield as a confident pass pro guy, someone who's going to be in tune with a run check. I think there still is a place, but JK's got to be the workhorse in the second half of the season. He's got fresh legs. He's young. You drafted him in the 2nd round. That's a place if you draft a running back, they need to be put to use early. It's time. It's time. He had his breakout game. He's like the toast of the fantasy football world right now. Like dynasty, dynasty leagues and dynasty fanny football.
Fanny football. Hey.
Fanny football. Dynasty fantasy football is like flipping out about J.K. Dobbins. He has pass game ability, the PPR ability. He forces missed tackles. They're worried about Gus Edwards getting goal line touches, yada, yada. J.K. is a man. And I think that he is the number 1 back. I think that Gus Edwards is a short yardage back still and has a role. You can definitely still be confident in Gus to get the job done. You don't want to beat JK up too much, but you want to make sure he's getting touches. Mark Ingram's over 30. I love Mark Ingram. I love his personality. I love what he did last year. But ever since that injury against the Browns, we haven't seen him be the same. Saw a little bit of juice against the Bengals. Saw the big touchdown run at a Wildcat against the Texans. Just hasn't had the same juice. He's injured again. He has some sort of ankle calf problem dating back like almost a year. So that's tough, man. He's an older back with a lot of wear and tear. Still have love for Mark, but they drafted JK for a reason, and he showed out. So it is what it is.
We do need him to get back into the rotation, though, honestly, because he's coming for our corner a little bit with this whole podcasting thing.
He's got to get back on the field, Mark. Gregory Boston, does this Zeus move to left tackle basically assure that his time in Baltimore is over?
I saw this last night, and no. I think he's got a great opportunity to either prove his versatility here to them, and that's only going to make him even more desirable to re-sign, or, it could improve his value in the free agent market. I think it's just a great opportunity for him no matter what.
This is a fan take, but I just don't think that he wants to be anywhere else. And if the Ravens treat him well, offer him money, and, just same kind of deal as Ronnie, deal was a bad choice of words. Same kind of cultural, treatment as Ronnie. You're a part of what we want to do. We need you. Have some money. Not as much as Ronnie, but, have some money. Think everything goes fine. He doesn't get
also, he's from around here. His dad, obviously a team legend to a certain extent. So
he grew up, he had Edgar Allan and Poe, the mascots of the Ravens, with his dad at career day at school. And he talks about, if you watch the film Breakdown with Baldy, he's like, destiny. It was destiny. I had a terrible combine. Mr. Ozzie didn't care. Bring me back in. I know your pinky's broken, Baldy. I love you. But I think that Orlando likes being around here. I think it'll go well. I think it'll go well. He's been good. Block 1134. Weird game. Yeah. Weird game. Enjoyed it. Pluke Surfs, our boy. Lamar's got to be better.
Pluke Surf's been. We need more Pluke Surfs.
He's lurking around here. He likes our stuff and comments most of the time.
Okay, good. He hasn't been in the mailbags as much recently. That's my guy. I'm missing.
Yeah, it's been prime freaking barrel season out there.
Dude, he's just catching gnarly barrels and swells, dude. And then he goes back to the pad and he burns, man. He's tight. He's living the life that I want to live.
For sure. Fluke with a V. Did I miss something? I think Marlon barely played in the third quarter.
That could be conspiracy cap on with the context that we have now, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Snap counts. Damn it. I just had him.
Could be a Justin Turner situation, but who knows?
Marlon played the defensive snaps. 100% of defensive snaps, 53. So that's just not true. Alex Mearman, thoughts on the Hollywood tweet? I like it. I like the Hollywood tweet. I like that he's a little pissed that they didn't win. I like that he's pissed that he didn't get to do more.
With this generation of players, I like it if he follows up on it and goes to Harbaugh and Roman and says, "Hey guys, we got to do something here." But I sometimes worry with these Gen Z guys if they just want to do the Twitter fingers thing and not have a conversation about it. If he has a conversation about it and they do get him involved more, I like it. But let's calm down a little bit.
I want him to want the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
First round pick. I want him to want the ball and be mad when he doesn't get it. I don't want him to be a obnoxious, distraction, but I think he has done very little to prove that way. And when he tweeted it, the reactions to people.
I also love the wording of the tweet. Why are you going to have soldiers if you never even use them soldiers? It's of course, in 2020, that's this big storyline and people are interpreting what it means. It's immediately, and then didn't we just have this conversation about him being 0 dark 30 23 on social media the other day? This is the most fucking 2020 athlete thing of all time, and this is the most Gen Z athlete thing to do ever. I love Hollywood, but it's just so perfect. What do we do? What are we doing?
I don't know, Jim. I don't know. Oh my fucking God. Okay. That dismantled me. I'm just I can't get together. When people were responding to the tweet, it was like, please, Hollywood, please don't do this.
Yeah, it's like,
Don't
guys,
be like your cousin. Please don't do this.
like Jonas is like sitting there looking up soldiers and like trying to like decode it's just like a preposterous situation all around.
Oh my God.
It's great.
I loved it. I loved it so much. Oh, wow. Thank you, Alex Merriman, for asking that.
Is he going to be the Daenerys Targaryen of this team?
Oh God, burn it all to the ground. Burn it all to the
The
ground.
least expected.
Thank you, Alex Merriman, for asking that. Simply thoughts on the Hollywood tweet, because I have many.
It skips a generation. The madness.
Oh, love you, Hollywood. Okay. Jonas CF. Do you think this game will make Roman focus on the run more due to its success? Sure. K Money Son.
Just
I
week to
mean,
week. Yeah.
K Money Son with maybe the second best mailbag so far. I mean, fuck.
Yeah,
That's it.
I mean, you got me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, it sucked at the end. It was, very hopeful, but like, it's aside from Ronnie Stanley, I think it's a very positive game moving forward.
When we get a soundboard, I'm going to have that video of Baker Mayfield sitting there for like 5 seconds and just saying, fuck.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a great video.
Yeah, that goes on the 16 bit. Sagan Alsop 52. Can we go far in the playoffs? If they keep at it, and by keep at it, I mean keep kind of airing the ball out, getting in these situations. Maybe we see them win one, lose one, a couple times. I expect them to beat some of these shitty teams they play down the stretch. I think this is the year they win a playoff game, as opposed to the last 2 years when they didn't. They haven't won one since 2015, the 2014 season. The year was 2015.
Also, like lower seed, easier draw. So, like, the math maybe adds up there as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe they play in Buffalo against a weird Bills team, or the Colts or the Titans or some team with some of those teams. I think so for sure. Probably avoid the Chiefs, I would think. I don't think the Steelers get the 1 seed. I really, really, really don't. This is Jakey Schadenfreude, but I kind of want them to go 16-0 and then lose in the Super Bowl. That'd be so sick. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If the Ravens lose on Thanksgiving, Steelers go undefeated, I'm totally fine with that. ZJ Batman, our boy. You are Harbaugh. What is your detailed plan moving forward? Maintain the ship, man. I mean, it's a growing offense. It's an offense that has taken a lot of shit shoveled on them from fans, from everyone. The honeymoon is over. The honeymoon phase is completely over. Keep your heads down. Use the narrative of everybody doubting you, of like all that bullshit that he loves, the underdog card. Eat it up. Eat it up. He's not, leading the charge in the X's and O's. He's not the play caller. He's a decision maker, though. I like him sticking to his process of going forward on 4th down. Keep giving Lamar, everything he needs, all the confidence, and all these he has these impartments of wisdom with him now and all that stuff. And if you go read Jonas Schaefer's article in Baltimore Sun, Aaron Kasnitz's on Penn Live's article about how Harbaugh arranges the locker rooms and how, well, this is kind of unfortunate and sad now, but put Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown's lockers next to each other just to try and, make it metaphorical, make their relationship tight, make them understand. And Lamar is like, because of that, I don't have to get up. Like, they pull me up every time I get tackled. Like, I love that about them. I wish I could block for them. And I think Harbaugh just keeps at it, man. It's been a rough season. Cornerbacks going down, Ronnie Stanley going down. Tough stuff. But adversity breeds success. And I firmly believe that. And I think he would say the same thing.
Yeah, this is the shit that he lives for, man. He loves getting some injuries and some adversity because he loves to play up that underdog card and pull out his
it's been a while.
His parables and his where is the wise man, where's the scholar, and like he's pulling out his props like his shovel and his sword and shit. He's getting a little weird and Ray Lewis, of all people, is
Excalibur.
talking about how he can lose you a little bit. And yeah, this is just his thing. Like, he's going to, like, say they, like, win this week in some fashion or some, like, kind of late game heroics fashion in Indy. Like, I'm fully expecting a video of him to, like, just charging into the locker room like a fucking banshee with its head cut off, screaming like some Jocko Willink quote like he did a couple years ago. Like, this is what he lives for. Like,
Some Hemingway, some fucking Winston Churchill, all that stuff. Can't wait.
The whole good thing, like that he just ripped that straight from Jocko, and it was pretty incredible. I gotta say. So excited for some more of that.
Love it. B Rose 931. Geez, we did his in like
this
reverse.
guy is absolutely.
We did his in reverse order because I started from the most recent. And this makes so much sense. So much pain. How do we improve from this game? Realize your mistakes, press forward, look at where, the concepts worked, where they didn't, where receivers were open, where the pocket broke down, why it broke down, miscommunication. The improvement for me defensively is how to defend the no huddle and these veteran quarterbacks, communication. That I'm very confident in this room of defensive backs. They fucking kicked Earl Thomas out because he was not willing to communicate and be on the same page, literally voted his ass off of Survivor Island. And I'm confident Marlon comes back.
Grab your tiki. We'll see you back at camp. That's our way community. Everyone do the two what do you call it? The two peace signs. Love Jeff Probst, by the way.
The best, the absolute best.
Blue shirts are.
I think Survivor could make a good comeback now. Like modernize it a little bit, like on Netflix.
I've tried to get into it like a couple different years, the past few years, and it hasn't totally held me. But I want to.
It needs to like go to Netflix.
I could see that.
And they like take control of the production. They could do something healthy there. But yeah, pain. I hope it stings. I hope the pain stings. B Rose 931, because on Thanksgiving, buddy, you're gonna be living it up, yucking it up. Trust me. I just have this supreme feeling that I've had for a long time of a vision ever since this schedule came out. I know Lamar is going to fuck the Steelers up on Thanksgiving. I know it. The turnovers are going to go away, and it will go the same way. Just trust me. PR Anav 715. Available alignment for trade. All right, we already got into that kind of tough because it's, maybe treading water, if not drowning, even if you trade for one, and spreads your draft capital out pretty thin. And then he said, and screw the refs. They sold the game to Vegas. I added it. He said, screw the refs. They sold us the game. But I like to add Vegas because I like
Vegas, baby. Vegas. Got to get you out of that stuffy apartment. We're going to have fun tonight. We're going to Vegas, Mike. Yeah, come on. Vegas, baby. I'm gonna cop me 2 waitresses here, and I'm gonna pull me a Fredo.
Bats everywhere.
All the beautiful babies in here. They're everywhere.
Bats everywhere.
Yeah. We're off the rails, by the way.
We're off the rails. It's been a long one.
Running an hour and a half. So.
Fear and loathing in Pittsburgh.
Really?
Doug.
That's kind of a weird tie-in.
Doug, how should I feel about this team going forward? Doug, I think you should feel like there's a young offense, a good defense. They're missing their left tackle. Marlon Humphrey's got the old corona. Hopefully he's okay. There's a team that's getting battle tested, taking some lumps, taking some wounds. They're going to pull out their goddamn sword, pick up their shield, and move forward for the rest of the season. And the excuses are plentiful. They're bountiful. They're all over social media. They're all over the radio. They're all over the television. There's excuses. There's criticism. But I like it. Back them into a corner, see what the fuck happens. I love that about this sport. I love that about the locker room. I love that about this franchise's DNA. Back them into a corner. Let's see what happens. And, a little game that people forget about is that Week 17 Browns, the little hot shot Baker Mayfield rookie Browns coming into Baltimore, talking a bunch of shit.
One of my favorite games I've been to, like, ever.
Yeah, the hot shot fucking Browns coming into Baltimore, thinking they're going to do this and do that. Ravens clinch it, go to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. They fall short ultimately against the still San Diego Chargers. Were they in Carson then?
I think they were in Carson. Yeah,
they were in Los Angeles at that point.
17. That might have been their first year out there.
Yeah, I think it was because they played in that soccer stadium when they won earlier in the year, right?
Yeah, they're a joke of a franchise, and they were playing in a soccer stadium.
In a teeny tiny little soccer stadium. Yeah, teeny tiny bicicletas. So, they've won some big games. People forget that. The Patriots, the Seahawks, the 49ers, they haven't gotten it done in the playoffs. Pardon me.
If you want to say like playoffs, that's fine. Like if you want to take that shot, it's like, what can you even say? But like the big games thing is such horseshit because it's like totally subjective.
Max Kellerman was like, he's 0-6 in big games.
Is that they haven't won a big game yet? Stephen A. Smith. And I need Lamar Jackson to prove it to me.
And I need Lamar Jackson to prove it.
Fuck that guy.
It's whatever. But
keep riding that Tom Brady train, by the way. You're going to be right eventually, you dickhead, in 10 years. Fuck Max Kellerman.
Great boxing analyst. I will give him that.
Sure. People say that. Like, hey, go back to boxing. Get off fucking First Take. What are you doing?
Making a lot of money for
making a shitload of money. Great. Enjoy your shitty, like getting yelled at by Stephen A. Smith.
I was gonna say he's Jim Rome's like shitty cousin or something.
Except Jim Rome is actually a cool guy. Like I would not want to get a beer with Max Kellerman.
Yeah, Jim Rome's a badass. Max Kellerman's the
Jim Rome
cousin.
Yeah, Jim Rome is like Max Kellerman if he moved to SoCal and like let the East Coast eggs just roll off him and like smoked a shit ton of weed and like wore Maui Jim sunglasses and like silk shirts and maybe gets a pump in every other day and he's just like enjoying life. Like Max Kellerman has too much East Coast eggs to him.
100%. Final question from this one. V Campbell 23. Any chance Greg Roman gets the Cam Cameron treatment?
No.
Not when your offense is about to break the record, tie the record, actually, if they put up 20 against the Colts for the most consecutive games with 20 points scored with a young, cheap offense.
I don't want to like put words in this guy's mouth and say like he wants that to happen, but like if you do want Greg Roman to get fired, like I don't know what to tell you. Like why do fans think that like firing somebody is going to like fix everything? Like that's just not how smart organizations operate. It's just not. Like it worked once.
It did work once when Cam Cameron, had a stale ass shit offense and wasn't scoring 20 points every
game. A bad offensive coordinator who was boring and not utilizing Joe Flacco properly. Like this is the perfect situation for Lamar as far as an offensive coordinator is going to go, at least as I can see right now. So
I fully agree. No, Greg Roman's fine. I like Greg Roman. The passing concept stuff, I got into it on Twitter. It's a crock of bullshit. Could they throw more screens? Sure. Lamar kind of fucking sucks at throwing screens sometimes.
He really does. Like he's quintessential like 3-point shooter. He cannot hit layups for some reason. Screens being chief among them.
It was a really bad problem his rookie year. It hasn't been as bad the last couple of years. He did throw one high to Duvernay. Screen should be pretty much, if there's not a defender either batting down the pass or in the way, 100% completion rate. They haven't been with Lamar, but screens, jet sweep passes, all that stuff. You'd like to see the bunch stacks more. You'd like to see maybe some downfield stuff like scissors, where it's like a post and a corner that intertwine, and it would be good at beating cover 3 because that's a cover 3 beater. So that's one thing, scissors, that could maybe be something. But the Ravens don't have long developing plays like that, and I don't know if they're going to want to trust their offensive line too. So I don't know. More Nick Boyle as a blocker, I think, can help. And some more max protection stuff with some, little chip blockers that go out for little flat routes and give dump off options and whatever. But Greg Roman getting fired is not the fucking answer. If you score, it was just a weird game. The Ravens threw a pick 6, of course, and gave the Steelers a really short field. Other than that, the Steelers only had 2 good drives, really, the whole game. And the Ravens lost. They turned the ball over a couple times, and Steelers made a play in the red zone, forced a fumble. It is what it is. 5-2, moving on to Indy for the bastard Earsays. And this is an angry Ravens team, man. I mean, they're pissed. They're without Stanley. They might be without Marlon. Sounds like they're going to be. So we'll see what they got. We'll get into that later in the week. But this was a tough one. We understand it. We're here for you guys. We hope that some positivity and some big meta picture stuff can help out a little bit. The tough loss. So it's Baltimore Ravens football. Strap on your big boy pants, put your big boy pants on, and get ready. It's a long season, and they're not even halfway done.
Absolutely. And we did get a good amount of Twitter questions. I think we covered pretty much most of them, and we're running over an hour and a half at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and skip reading through those this time around, but keep them coming at next time we do record one of these. In the meantime, we really appreciate everyone tuning in for another extra long sort of therapy session, kind of recap episode here coming up on a Tuesday. The club will also be going up on a Tuesday. So you just, wins all around as far as this episode and that. But if you liked what you heard, feel free to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating if you have not already, and leave us a nice little review there. Follow us on social media. Follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. Follow your boy at Jake Luke. That's Louque. Just cross that 900 follower threshold. I'd really like to get to that 1,000 mark before the end of the year. So please go ahead and follow me. You can follow Spencer at Ravens4Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle. And follow the main account at Be More Beatdown, where Kyle and I are doing some tweeting throughout the week. So in the meantime, really appreciate you guys listening, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Peace.